You're not living your life right now. You're rehearsing for one. You already know what you're going to sacrifice. You just haven't admitted it yet. The next step. The step after that. And somewhere out there, past the planning and the pushing, you believe there's a place where you finally get to stop and actually be inside your own life. You think it starts later. That's what you believe. Maybe you haven't said it that way, but that's the operating assumption underneath everything you do. I'm 96 years old. I spent 40 years preparing for a life I never entered. That's not a figure of speech. That's an accounting of what happened. 40 years. Gone. Not to tragedy, not to misfortune, to preparation, to getting ready. And I want to tell you something I almost didn't, because it's not comfortable. There was a moment, one specific moment, where the entire cost of that pattern landed on me all at once. And I couldn't argue with it. I couldn't explain it away. I'll get to that. But I need you to understand the shape of the thing first, because you're inside it right now, and you can't see it, the same way I couldn't. Here's what makes this so hard to catch. It doesn't feel like a problem. It feels like the responsible thing. It feels like maturity. You tell yourself, once this is handled, then I'll be present. Once I hit this number, once I finish this project, once things settle down, then I'll slow down. Then I'll actually enjoy what I have. You think it starts later. I told myself the same thing, and I wasn't being foolish. That's what I need you to understand. I was being strategic. I was being careful. I looked at the people around me who seemed to be coasting, and I thought, no, I'm going to do this right. I'm going to build something first. Then I'll live inside it. That reasoning is airtight. That's why it works so well as a trap. The same thing happens with people. Your marriage, your children, your friendships. You treat them like things that will deepen once there's time, once the busy season passes, once the foundation is solid enough to stand on. You're not neglecting anyone. You would never describe it that way. You're sequencing. You're putting things in the right order. Lay the groundwork now. Be present later. That distinction between neglect and rational sequencing is the entire trap. You don't see yourself as absent. You see yourself as building toward presence, and so you never question it. But there's a layer underneath that, and I didn't see it for a very long time. You're not just postponing activities. You're not just postponing attention. You are postponing yourself. The version of you that's allowed to exist, to rest, to feel like enough, to stop earning the right to be here. That version is always scheduled for after the next thing. You don't give yourself permission to just be who you are right now. Not yet. Not until you've accomplished whatever comes next. I didn't understand any of this while it was happening. It just felt like discipline. The early costs were invisible. That's the honest truth. They didn't feel like costs at all. Weekends that disappeared into planning. Evenings where I was in the room but not in the room. My body at the dinner table, my mind 3 months ahead. A walk with my wife where I was mentally drafting something. A conversation with my son where I was waiting for it to end so I could get back to whatever I thought mattered more. I wasn't missing big moments. I was missing ordinary ones. And those were my life. I just didn't know it yet. You think it starts later. That phrase ran underneath everything. Every small moment I skipped over was justified by the bigger moment I was building toward. And each one on its own was nothing. A meal, an evening, a Saturday, nothing. But they accumulated, quietly, the way dust does. You don't notice it settling. You notice it when it's already everywhere. And then it crossed the line you don't come back from. And I didn't even notice it happening. The deferral stopped being something I did. It became something I was. I couldn't separate myself from the act of preparing. I didn't know how to sit in a room and just be there. A good day would happen, and I would immediately convert it into momentum for the next objective. I couldn't experience something without it serving a purpose. There was nothing left of me outside what I was building. And you think you're being disciplined. You think you're being responsible. But you have been absent from your own life for years now, and you've called it ambition. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you were fully inside a moment that had nothing to do with your future? Sit with that. I didn't understand the real cost until much later. Because the worst stage isn't when you notice your own absence. It's when the people around you stop noticing it. When they adjust, when they stop expecting you to be present and just absorb it as permanent, as just the way you are. My wife didn't fight me about it, not after the first few years. She stopped reaching, not because she didn't love me, because she'd learned that reaching didn't change anything. She adapted. The kids adapted. Everyone rearranged themselves around the empty space where I was supposed to be. And the house kept running. Dinners still happened. Birthdays still happened. Everything looked fine from the outside. But the people who loved me had quietly reclassified me. Reliable, competent, provided for everything. Gone. She said it once, near the end, not in anger, not in a fight. She said, "You were never really here." And I opened my mouth to argue, and nothing came out. Because she was right. She'd given me over 40 years. I'd been physically present for nearly all of them, and experientially absent for most of them. She didn't say it the way you say something to wound a person. She said it the way you describe the weather, just the truth of the thing, the way it was. That's not my story. That is your trajectory. That's where the road goes. Not might go, goes. If you keep doing what you're doing, if you keep telling yourself the same thing I told myself, you think it starts later. I want to be clear about something. The reason you keep deferring is not discipline. It's not ambition. It's not responsibility. It is the belief, and it's deep, and you haven't examined it, and it is running everything, that who you are right now, without the next achievement, without the next milestone, is not enough. You are not chasing a better life. You are running from the suspicion that your current self doesn't deserve to stop. That's it. That's the whole thing underneath all of it. Every deferred moment, every after this promise. It's not progress, it's avoidance wearing the mask of progress. I spent 40 years constructing an elaborate future that was, in its architecture, a way to never have to be in the present. Because the present required me to be myself, just myself, without justification, without something I was building toward, and I couldn't do that. And you can't either. That's why you're still here. You can keep telling yourself you're getting ready, but you are getting ready the same way I did, and I'm 96. I never started. You already know the answer. You just haven't said it out loud. How many of the people who love you have already stopped reaching?